For centuries, Papahānaumokuākea was a place for native Hawaiian ali'i, or chiefs, to commemorate the source of their birthright, authority, and their mana. In this modern day, is it possible for us to show that same reverence?
I felt like I was in the Kumulipo. You're seeing all these things that are enumerated in the genealogical chain of life being born on Earth, and you can't help but reconnect on a much deeper spiritual level.
They traveled there pretty frequently as well, and they've lived in every part of the island. You can see their footprint pretty much everywhere, and to me it's pretty amazing.
For many Native Hawaiians, Papahānaumokuākea presents a glimpse into the past, insight into our ali'i, and maybe even a look forward into what our future could be.
I have a lot of ideas or ike about that particular place. It's worth maintaining, worth saving for many, many, many reasons. And one of the reasons is that we have to be able to trail or trace our ike Kūpuna, and that's one of the trails or the pathway that we need to do it on. And so they need to leave those things alone, those islands alone, until we have all of the knowledge that we need.
My name is Kaleo Pa'avaris, and this is Hanohano Nā Kūpuna, exploring Papahānaumokuākea. In this episode, we go back in time to discuss our Native Hawaiian ancestors and their relationship to Papahānaumokuākea centuries ago. The Kumulipo, one of the Hawaiian stories of creation, describes realms of the world that feed into each other. Po, a place of deep darkness reserved for the gods and spirits, and Au, the realm of light where the living resides. Papahānaumokuākea provides the pathway for spirits to the afterlife. According to the paper Mai Kapo Mai, written by authors Kalani Kuocho, Kekuewa Kikiloi, Aulani Wilhelm, and more, Kealanui Polohiwa Kane, or the Tropic of Cancer, is considered the border between Po and Au, the line between the supernatural and the living. Mokumanamana, one of the islands of Papahānaumokuākea, sits right on the Tropic of Cancer and has at least 34 individual heiau or temples. The nearby Nihoa Island has over 89 different cultural sites, ranging from habitation to agricultural to religious structures. Aunty Pua Kanaka Ole Kanahele, whose voice you may remember from episode 1, tells us more about Mokumanamana.
What we know about Mokumanamana, what I know about Mokumanamana, is that it is on the north end of our sun, the movement of our sun, and the Tropic of Cancer passes right over it. And so that's why we came to the idea that that's why it was important, because it was on the Tropic of Cancer. The Makali'i is on the Tropic of Cancer. And Makali'i is on the Tropic of Cancer. The sun goes north, and that's where it bounces back to the south. Makali'i is always there. It's sort of the property boundary for Hawaii. And so that made it more interesting for us.
For over 400 years, both Nihoa and Mokumanamana were a ritual center of power supported by voyaging, long-term occupation, and the socio-political development of traditional Hawaiian society. Our interactions with these islands centuries ago are some of the most earliest signs of Hawaiian religious activity.
It wasn't common because only certain people could do it. And you have to be able to voyage to do it. You have to be able to know stars to do it. And and when I say voyage, you have to know where the stars are leading you to. So what is beyond that particular star? And so I think it just wasn't written, because by the time we got to the idea of writing things, people just forgot about it. We didn't voyage as much. Yeah, and that was too bad, because it's it's intelligent, it's smart.
Even without written evidence, the work of researchers, archaeologists, and storytellers has helped us uncover more about our past. Papahānaumokuākea was a place of deep spiritual significance, but evidence shows that it wasn't the only reason to travel hundreds of miles.
Our ancestors went to those islands for different reasons.
In the documentary, In the Wake of Canoes, A Genealogy of Exploration, Professor Carlos Andrade gives light to why Native Hawaiians traveled to Papahānaumokuākea.
For one reason was, this whole idea of exploration. Going there to see what was there, going there to experience the difference in latitude, if you want to just talk about direction and voyaging and navigating, seeing the world from a different point of view. That's one reason that Hawaiian people went there. And we're doing that today. The second reason that Hawaiians went traditionally was economic, because they went to gather food, they went to gather bird feathers. Because the Hawaiian Islands were very, very populated prior to people coming here. They had places where there were more fish than was available where the populations were. So they went up there, I'm sure, to fish.
A lot of the research that I've done has definitively shown that these images are made by Native Hawaiians, because there's only Native Hawaiian evidence and presence up there.
Dr. Kekuewa Kikiloi is an associate professor at the Center for Hawaiian Studies at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, speaking in the documentary Papahānaumokuākea, Where Nature and Culture Are One, about ki'i stone images found on Mokumanamana. A lot of what we know about Papahānaumokuākea comes from olelo, or stories passed down from generation to generation. Today, modern scientific and archaeological techniques have confirmed what the olelo tells us.
We have settlement dates that span from about 1300 to contact period. So continuous time where Native Hawaiians were actively going back and forth to these islands and occupying them.
We talked more with Kekuewa on his involvement with Papahānaumokuākea over the past 2 decades.
It's evolved back and forth at times, from researcher to cultural practitioner to advocate to employee for a period of time as well, and then just sort of community sort of leader, I guess, in organizing some of the community efforts up there. In the beginning, I was a young, late 20s kind of up and coming Hawaiian, I think, in the community that was helping to coordinate things and doing my graduate research, and really just trying to soak things in and learn from the different elders that were involved early on. And then over the years, as I got older, now I'm in my late 40s, it's kind of weird to kind of look back at it now and sort of be involved that long, and then now kind of being one of the older people that are involved in this effort. And so I guess the main thing is that stayed consistent is that I care about this place pretty deeply and would pretty much do anything to protect it.
Kekuewa's research combines traditional ways of knowing with modern scientific techniques. His work has become a fundamental part of informing what we know about Papahānaumokuākea and our ancestors' relationship to the place.
So definitely oral traditions and archival research was one, which shed light on the fact that there's island names for this place, that there's stories associated with of deities, migrating out of that region into the main Hawaiian Islands. And then you have epic heroes and stories of people in our legendary past that voyaged up there as rite of passages. And then you have sort of like archaeology that also weighs in on this, where archaeology is the study of like the physical, tangible record of the past, like the artifacts, the sites and stuff. And I had to do different types of scientific analyses and documentation to try to see, what was like the real truth of what was going on up there. And when I got all this data back, over the course of like a decade, and had to write my dissertation, it really showed that, like, without a doubt, it is entirely Hawaiian. Radiocarbon dates also sort of showed sort of a pattern of voyaging that was secular and sort of repetitive, because they were really trying to maintain sort of a presence on those islands because of the importance of it ceremonially. it's really kind of like doing forensics in a lot of ways. You're trying to find like every little piece of information and try to see if there's internal consistency with what they're saying, and also trying to privilege sort of the voice of Native Hawaiians in this. That's like a key thing in this whole equation, right? Is that part of our confusion is because we've listened to people that don't know what they're talking about. And we've sort of like privileged all voices in the discussion, right? And so a lot of what I was trying to do is trying to form a methodology that really was about quality control, about what I was looking at. So it was important for me to look at Hawaiian language sources, because that means that there's some integrity to the knowledge being passed down, right?
For Kekuewa, investigating our past is critical to knowing who we are as Hawaiians.
It's fundamental to Hawaiian identity, because so much of our spirituality and our belief system is tied to an understanding of the entire archipelago, homeland, and that region in particular is a procreative source from which life originates, and to where the souls are deceased return to after death to reunite with the ancestors. And so, you know, so much of our culture and our customs and beliefs were forgotten. Knowing the past is core to Hawaiian identity. I mean, the whole mindset and viewpoint is rooted in the past, right? And so I definitely think that part of sort of the healing that needs to happen in our communities is really grounded in the past. Like, we need to sort of maintain sort of that essence of what it means to be Hawaiian. Like, there's a lot of discussion in the university about like the sort of the history of our people being innovative and agents of change and stuff like that. And I agree with that for sure. I mean, during the Kingdom era, they were doing some amazing things, but for any people to have a cultural identity or any kind of identity, there has to be enough of the main stem that is rooted in the past, or sort of a previous sort of deeper sort of connection. It's important, I think, for us to have that foundation first, so that we can be confident in how we branch out into the future, right? While maintaining sort of our duties and responsibilities. And I think that's the key term here, right? Duty and responsibilities. Sort of like today, like we live our lives as if we don't have anything like that. We're free to do whatever we want. And in a way we can. You can live your life like that if you want. But in the past, people felt that they had a responsibility to the bigger picture. And that I think a lot of problems today is because we never honored those things.
History can reveal truths about both our kulana and our kuleana, our role and responsibility to the world, to each other, and to ourselves. For many people, Papahānaumokuākea is like physically stepping into the past to discover those truths.
I felt like I was in the Kumulipo, like Kumulipo being the longest sort of cosmogonic creation chant for our people, the most comprehensive. If you look at the first 8 wa in the era of sort of like Po or darkness, it's really telling about the creation of the earth and all that's living on it. And when you're going up there, especially on canoe, I mean, it's a different experience on canoe because you're just out in the open and seeing things, it really feels like you're going back in time in a way and sort of reliving sort of the ancient past. The types of things that you see are like the things in the history books that you kind of wonder if like, were we sort of romanticizing our connection to nature? And then when you go up there, no, we weren't, because we have forgotten how nature responds because we're not in nature anymore, right? But like, there's so much living things trying to interact with you, and they have like human-like persona that it's no wonder our ancestors and people before thought that the ancients were like personified in the natural environment, right? So everything from the birds, insects, fish everywhere. Porpoises running next to the canoe, dolphins. It's just alive in a way that we don't really get to experience in the main Hawaiian Islands.
I ka wā ma mua, I ka wā ma hope. As we continue to better understand how our past interacted with the islands, what does our future look like?
That's an important thing to know when it's your turn to sort of be the mentor and step down. And so I think that's more of the message for the older generation than the younger generation, because every generation is actually coming out stronger than the one before. So we just need to remember that. Younger generation, just be respectful and work hard and be committed.
How can the new generation feel the same connection to Papahānaumokuākea? How do they interact with the place and its rich nature and culture? What can we understand about the nuances surrounding the accessibility of the place?
My relationship with Papahānaumokuākea, it's something that it was a place that piqued my interest when I was young.
In episode 3, we talk about the next generation of Papahānaumokuākea.